Are you looking to grow revenues, increase profitability, or obtain financing? If so, you came to the right place.
Running a business is all about leadership. How do you become a better leader? Learn from the successful entrepreneurs and business owners how to lead your organization more effectively. That's why we created Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business, to help you succeed with your host, Andrew Frazier, Business Growth Pro and CFO and founder of the Small Business Pro University. Every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're joined by experienced entrepreneurs and business owners who share their secrets to success via live stream. Also, every Friday morning, we release a new podcast episode. Either way, you will learn about developing your business leadership skills from our roster of highly performing guest experts. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbprou.com.
Good evening, and welcome back to Leadership Live at 8:05. I'm your host, Andrew Frazier, and excited about hanging out with you once again on Tuesday evening. As you know, as a business owner, there's so many things you need to do to move your business forward, but it's impossible to know them all. And basically, your business can only go as far as you're prepared to take it. That's why we created Leadership Live, to help you develop your business knowledge and leadership skills so that you can move your business forward faster and achieve greater success. So that's what the show is all about. We always appreciate everybody tuning in, and really looking forward to have a tremendous show tonight. So definitely, we always appreciate questions and comments. And, tonight's show is called Transform Your Business Through Profit, Customers, and Growth Strategies. And really at the end of the day, you have to continually, your business has to evolve, you have to evolve. And we're going to talk about transforming it with Nicolas Darveau-Garneau. And, he has a lot of experience with this, so I can't really wait to pull some of that experience out of him. And I'm sure that, you'll learn some things, I'll learn some things, and it'll be a great show. So let me invite him on now. Hey, Nicolas, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Andrew, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you joining us, taking time out of your busy schedule, and willingness to share your knowledge and expertise. Before we get started, nobody really knows who you are. So if you could talk a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are, and a little bit about how you got to where you are, and then we'll start our conversation on the topic. Sound good?
Yeah, awesome. Let's start with a strange name. So I'm French Canadian, originally from a place that's about 4 hours north of Montreal, where it's basically the ground's frozen 9 months of the year. Grew up, in a one parent household, struggling financially. So, a little tough upbringing, but, mom really focused on schooling, and really fortunate to have gone through a good school, and was able to move on from there to go to school near Toronto, Ontario, and learn English. I couldn't speak a word of English until I was 18, right? So I learned English. And then I moved to the US when I was around 22 to do my MBA, just like you did. And then I was kind of searching for myself, right? Trying to understand who I was and what I wanted to do. And in 1995, I saw the internet for the first time. I just fell in love and knew that I wanted that to be my career. So I started 4 internet companies, in the next 15 years. One that did really well, 2 that did okay, and 1 that went bankrupt really hard because I messed up pretty badly. So entrepreneur for many, many years. And then after my last company, I got a call from Google who wanted me to come and join. And so I was always a little nervous about working for a big company, but I found Google to be really entrepreneurial. So I joined Google, and I was there for about 11 years. And the last 5 years, I was Google's Chief Evangelist, which was this really extraordinary job where I got to meet Google's top customers around the world. And I got to advise over 1,000 CEOs from small companies all the way to the biggest companies in the world. And I just learned a bunch of things that I just didn't understand back then. And so that's why I wrote my book, Be a Sequoia, Not a Bonsai, to help entrepreneurs like bypass a whole bunch of stuff, right? It can get right to the good stuff that the best companies in the world are using. And I'm really thrilled to share that with entrepreneurs because I love them. I know how hard it is, how stressful it is. And if I can help entrepreneurs be more successful, that's going to make my day.
Oh, excellent. So definitely look forward to really learning some things from you tonight, and your experience. You've seen some great things. Of course, Amazon is Amazon, and there's a lot. They do a lot of things well. So definitely excited about that. So before we get started, we run the show through Small Business Pro University. So this is one of our brain trust initiatives, and one of the key ways that we help entrepreneurs and business owners. But I've got a short video so you can learn a little bit more about what Small Business Pro University is and how we help people. Many small businesses experience low or no revenue growth, and the owners are not making enough money. I founded Small Business Pro University to help you break that cycle by empowering you with greater knowledge and enhanced skills to lead your organization more effectively. Over the past 15 years, I've collaborated with organizations like the Small Business Development Center, Rising Tide Capital, Empower the Village, NJMEP, Rutgers University, and SCORE to work one-on-one with over 1,000 business owners and teach tens of thousands of people about business. My experience includes serving as a naval officer, managing businesses, graduating from MIT, earning an MBA from NYU, and achieving the CFA designation, which has prepared me to accomplish my mission of helping 1.8 million business owners to sell more, maximize profit, and finance growth by 2028. My vision is to create the ultimate business ecosystem for entrepreneurs. Small Business Pro University empowers entrepreneurs like you to run their businesses more professionally and create sustainable enterprises. We employ my proven proprietary Masterpreneur Playbook framework to guide your journey along the Masterpreneur path and facilitate your Masterpreneur evolution to work on your business and scale faster and easier. Small Business Pro University provides access to valuable resources, partnerships, and relationships that will help you to sell more, maximize profit, and finance growth. Our Masterpreneur initiatives include the Small Business Pro Network, 100+ expert-led multimedia courses, intensive training workshops, Spanish language training, Leadership Live at 8:05 live stream and podcast, in-person Power Breakfast events, and advisory coaching, consulting, and training services. All right, welcome back. Hey, Nicholas.
Hey, that's awesome, Andrew. Like, congratulations on all the graces, and also thanks for your service. I didn't know you were in the service, but wow, like you're doing so many amazing things to help entrepreneurs. It's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, no, definitely, it's my passion. I had my first business in 4th grade. We delivered papers for 5 years, 7 days a week. So, I came back to my passion and really, love to be able to make a difference for business owners. So, we're going to cover quite a few things, but you mentioned your book, and maybe talk a little bit about the premise of your book, because I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah, no, thank you, Andrew. So the book's called Be a Sequoia, Not a Bonsai. And the core premise is that after meeting 1,000 companies, there were two kinds of companies. One, the bonsai, always worried about, being more efficient, always pruning, always trying to cut, always worried, to take a bit of a risk and try new things. So beautiful. There's no like extra expenses in this company. It looks great, but it stays small. And the Sequoia is kind of the opposite. It's the idea that the business is always striving to reach maximum profitable growth, right? Always looking for the next thing, always open to new ideas, always trying new stuff. And I think, certainly in the age of AI and where we are today with technology, it's really hard to stay small. I mean, you don't kind of, you know, you don't cut costs into greatness, right? So the premise is that the Sequoias, the ones who are always looking to grow, always looking for the next thing, are the ones who are just dominating. So that applies for large companies. It applies for smaller companies as well. But the difference was really obvious to me after all these years at Google. It's a mindset shift. It's like, and you say it really well in your videos, right? Maximum profitable growth, not, cutting expenses. It's like we're looking to increase profits, of course, in an ethical way, in a way that delights customers. But you'd be surprised. Now, when I was meeting these companies, over 1,000, only about 10%, and again, some of these are the best companies in the world, only about 10% really actually try to maximize profits. 90% don't even try. Like it's not even a thing, right? And so how do I know this? It's because I would ask, the chief marketing officer, I would ask the head of customer service, I would ask all these people, like, what are you trying to do? And none of these people ever talked about profit, right? They talked about, well, I want more leads at a lower cost per lead if you're the marketer, or I want a higher ROI. Like, none of the metrics for the company. And I find also most entrepreneurs, their core metrics, whether it's marketing metrics or whether it's metrics around the products or the customer service, it's never around profit, right? If you're developing a new product, like how many features do we have? Well, it's not important, right? Is the product something that's going to get more revenues from your top customers? So that's the core premise. And then within that, there's 7 principles that these Sequoias are using that the Bonsai don't. And I can count probably on one hand the number of companies in the world who use all the 7 principles. And those companies, as you can imagine, are completely outperform the others. So the book goes through what the 7 principles are. It explains exactly what to do step by step. It explains why you're not doing it, and then how to get around these problems. And then it explains exactly what to do next going forward. And so companies who follow these 7 principles are going to be unrecognizable within a year.
Okay. Excellent. So definitely, just like you, I've worked with over 1,000 small business owners, and you see patterns. You see common challenges, you see common areas where they do well. And that led me to write my first book, Running Your Small Business Like a Pro, so that you can run your business professionally. It's a standard to work towards, but even large companies are not totally in line with all those things. So if you're not doing everything right, don't feel terrible, but also that doesn't mean you shouldn't try and learn how to do that. So
yeah, I think it's a great time to be an entrepreneur, right? It's easier now than ever to build a website. It's easier now than ever to do marketing, customer service, right? AI chatbots. And all of these things are kind of force multipliers where one person can be, work as 10 if you do it right, and you can move faster, right? And pivot more quickly and try new things more quickly than these large companies. And so as long as you have an open mind and you're willing to listen to what you have to say, Andrew, right, in your books, and then you read my book, and you're like, oh, like, I don't like all of the ideas, but of the 200 ideas that are in Nick's book, here's a 5 I want to try right now. That open-mindedness to new things and the ability to test things really quickly and try things, can you find out in 1 week whether Nick's idea is good or not, right? Here's how I'm going to test it. As opposed to a lot of companies I met just over-intellectualize everything. I'll give you an example. This is one of my favorite examples of my Google career. Google has an amazing advertising tool. And that tool, you see an ad on Facebook, for example. You see an ad on YouTube, for example, and you then click on this ad, and it's an ad for a movie, for example, like a movie trailer. And you see this ad, you click on the ad, and then if you go see the movie, in the next few days, Google knows that you've been to the movie theater. So it can actually report back to the advertiser and say, hey, look, you invested $1,000 yesterday, and you got 1,000 people to go to the movie theater. So your cost per movie theater visit was $1, and that's profitable for you. So you should do more of this. So here I am, at a movie, in front of a movie executives at one movie studio in LA, talking about this. And the most senior person in the room is like, well, this is brilliant, right? Where's this been my entire life? Like, I want to try this. Let's go and invest, a few $1,000s in our next movie, see if this works. And it did. And then he did this over and over again and scaled it and became really successful with this strategy. So I was feeling really good about myself, right? We went to the next meeting at a second movie studio in the afternoon, and I'm giving the exact same pitch, talking about the exact same thing. Hey, we have this advertising thing that will drive people to the movie theater. It's going to cost 50 cents or $1 to have people to the, and we can bring millions of people to the movie theater for you. Isn't this amazing? And for the next hour, I was just answering all sorts of criticisms about this. Well, how do we know that these people went to see our movie? Couldn't they have gone to the movie theater and go see another movie? Well, they saw your trailer. They probably see your movie, right? Or how does Google track this stuff? Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. It's 90% perfect. I couldn't, answer all their questions fast enough. And at the end, it's like, hey, do you want to spend a few $1,000 to try it? And then we'll know if it works or not. And they didn't do it, right? And so this a big dichotomy between companies who are really kind of open-minded to new things, or ones that are just trying to appear smart, as opposed to being open-minded. And so the Sequoias are really open to new ideas, test them really quickly. The Bonsais are too afraid to try stuff, too afraid to be wrong. So that's one of the key mindset shifts, I think, for many people, is just being open to trying things you never tried before. And it's not a criticism of because you haven't done it before. It could be something new. It could be something you haven't had the time to do it, but be open to trying these new things.
Okay. No, that's a great example. I think that, I always say that, to be a successful small business owner, you really have to be proactive. So you can't sit on your laurels. Yes, you also have to be creative. You can't do the same thing as everybody else. And you got to be flexible. You need to be able to do it in the best way possible for your clients. And if you do those three things, you're going to be very successful. So, I think, given the tools that you have now, if you do those things and incorporate the tools, like you said, you could, one person could do 10x what they did the year before. And definitely I'm a good example. I mean, it's, amazing how much, we're doing with such a small team. But it's great because, we're competing with, much larger organizations and able to be ahead of the curve on them in many ways. So definitely that's key. One thing you mentioned was, basically the organizations not being on the same page, and people within the organization, leadership, not being on the same page, and sort of lack of alignment of goals. And as a result, they overlook profit, which is why you're in business. And there's a couple ways to align the organization better. And I have a couple ways I do it, but what are your, how do you help organizations align their leadership better so that they can focus on the right things and put maximum impact behind it?
Yeah, so the book talks about something called the profit audit, which is the idea that A business owner should go through every department, even if the department is just you, right? So if it's a business of one person, you still have to do this. So ask yourself, look, I'm handling customer service, using some tools, XYZ. What am I trying to accomplish? Am I trying to get through these emails as fast as possible? Is it like the average handle time, as we say in customer service, that really matters? Or is it something else, right? Should I be focusing on trying to cross-sell more during these emails? Should I be focusing on my top 20% customers faster, right? Can I rank these emails coming in and focus on the most profitable customers, and for those spend more time? So kind of asking that type of questions, or customer service and product development, right? I'm building a new website. What is my core KPI for that? Well, 99.999% of websites have one KPI. It happens to be wrong. And my KPI was always wrong when I was an entrepreneur, right? We look at conversion rate, right? For those of you who have a website and you whether you sell things online or whether you take leads online, you're like, hey, I tried this one page A here and page B, and page A converts at a 3% rate. This one converts at a 4% rate. So the one that converts at 4% rate is better. Well, is that true, right? I mean, if maybe the second page got you more leads and converted the leads better. What if these leads are all bad because the page is over promises, and or if you're selling things, right, you have one page or the other page, and one page has free shipping and 25% off and this and that and the other thing, of course it's going to convert better. Really what we should care about is the profit per page, right? Or profit per customer visit. And so again, almost nobody actually looks at that. And so we design apps, we design websites the wrong way, we design customer service the wrong way, we design HR the wrong way, right? I mean, time to hire is a really bad metric. Who cares how long it takes to hire somebody? Are you getting the top 25% employees that you really want, because they're 10 times more productive than the average? So going through everything you do and kind of rethinking what you're trying to accomplish first. Right? In marketing, right? Are we trying to maximize profitability, or are we trying to get as many leads as possible? Who cares about the number of leads we get? We want to maximize profits. So the book takes you through how to do this profit audit, starting with marketing, which is the most obvious place to look at because it's pretty easy to maximize profits in marketing. And then it takes you through, product development, customer service, and so on and so forth. And once you've done that, you can really align the dashboards and the KPIs, and everybody starts to row in the same direction. And it has a massive, massive impact.
Yeah, definitely. KPIs are critical. Go in and work with businesses sometimes as a fractional CFO, and that's one of the first things I do with people, because especially small businesses, most of them don't have KPIs, or they don't have the type and level of KPIs that they should. But that's one way to get everybody on the same page. We generally meet every week and go, have the leadership team go through their part of the KPIs to really make sure everybody's on the same page and communicate and work together to move the organizations towards its most important goals. So it does that, but also it helps you avoid issues that could come up if you didn't do something like that. One of my clients said, it saved our company so many times from doing things from things that we would have never known about. So
yeah.
Definitely. And the next level above that, I'm not sure if you familiar, but you probably are, is OCRs. Which is, actually better for larger companies or medium companies, but it takes KPIs to the next level because every single employee in the company basically has three KPIs. And
Google was famous for that. We each had our three things to accomplish every quarter. And then, you and I talking about maximizing profits, and your audience is probably going like, well, this is obvious. But trust me, like very few companies do it. But then there's another level. So let me take you through another level of sophistication. So for those of you who already think you're kind of optimizing profits, fewer than 1% of the 1,000 companies I met, so it's not a lot, right? Optimize longer term profits. So what I mean by this is, so let's just take Amazon, for example. And I wasn't part of this, so I'm not sharing something I shouldn't share, but just kind of from the outside looking in, right? Let's think about what Amazon does. So let's assume that Amazon is trying to enter a new country, like Canada, right? And so how does it think about its strategy to do this? Well, when Amazon went into Canada, they launched with only books, right? You can only buy books in Canada. Andrew, do you know why Amazon did that?
Well, isn't that what they did in the U.S. also?
They did, but do you know why? Do you know why launching with books is really smart?
Well,
I didn't know, by the way.
I would suspect, a couple reasons. One, it's important to focus your marketing and your efforts on something, and they have a really big customer advantage there, and would give them the money that they need to set up the infrastructure to sell the other stuff.
Yeah, I think that's all correct. And then add one more, which is they discovered really early on that consumers who buy lots of books buy lots of everything. So if you go into Canada, you go into Canada, you acquire 1 million Canadians out of the 33 million Canadians, the ones who read like a lot of books. And these are the acquired people are going to buy a whole bunch of stuff, right? And so next thing you know, you launch in every category, and these people that are already in your databases buy everything that you've got to offer. And now you've got this going, right? You keep acquiring more customers, but you've really acquired these super valuable customers first. And then, a couple of years later, you launch Amazon Prime, right? And you lock them in, so they don't even search on Google ever again. They just buy from Amazon. And the lesson here is, for almost every industry, the top 20%, most profitable customers typically generate 100% of the profits, right? Yet I can count again on two hands the number of companies I met who had a specific strategy to acquire the most valuable customers in their industry, right? And so the second idea in the book, the first one is maximize profits. The second one is, of course, we should delight customers, right? And we always talk about the customer, but there's no such thing as the customer. There are millions of customers, right? And you need to understand which of these customers are losing you money, which ones are barely making you money, and which ones are like ultra profitable. So you need to first understand your profit density. Like historically, we've had 5,000 customers. My goodness, look at this. The top 20% drive 90% of our revenues and 110% of our profits. Most companies don't know that. It shouldn't be that hard to figure out, right? Their book actually explains how to do it. But once you figure this out, you're like, whoa, look at this. Like 15% of our customers drive 100% of our profits. Okay, we need to change absolutely everything, right? Our customer experience needs to be revolving around these. So we need to design our website, our customer service, our products around customers like these, number one, right? Number two, we better make sure we never lose these people, right? Number three, how do we transform a customer who's almost as as valuable or as profitable as these customers? What do we have to do to get you to that level? And then lastly, and maybe most importantly, how can I find more people like that? What is my customer acquisition strategy that is not, hey, I acquired a whole bunch of customers today at a low cost per customer, but I acquired extraordinarily valuable customers, right, at a reasonable cost per customer acquisition. So when you do this, if you have a specific tactic to go and get the most valuable customer in your industry, and your competitors don't do any of that, eventually you're going to win, right? Because you're just getting the most profitable customers. So another example, I was working with the car insurance company, and this car insurance company was struggling to acquire customers because people are, when you have a car accident now, it's just much more expensive to fix, right? I mean, it used to be a few $100. Now it's like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 when you have a bumper break, because they have cameras and all sorts of things. It's just super expensive, and they can't price the insurance high enough, right? The law doesn't let them do that, and so you acquire a new customer, and next thing you know, you've lost money. So, and this is a small car insurance company. It's not a big, sophisticated company. And so, using some basic AI tools, they built a forecasting algorithm to predict whenever I get a new customer, right, based on their age, their gender, the car they drive, a bunch of other, a bunch of pieces of data they're allowed to use legally. They're like, hey, like, let me kind of rate this customer from 1 to 10 in terms of how profitable they're going to be. 1 being, I'm going to lose thousands of dollars. 10 being, I'm going to make thousands of dollars because this customer is going to be very profitable. So they took this number from 1 to 10. They fed it back to Google. They fed it back to Facebook and said, hey, thanks for sending me this customer, but this customer is a 1, not particularly profitable for me. This one is a 10. And over time, Google and Facebook learned, which customers are the most profitable and send more customers like that. So next thing you know, within a year, this customer was this insurance company was acquiring 90% more customers who were ranked 9 to 10, really valuable, and 60% fewer customers who were ranked in 1 to 2, very unprofitable, and their profits quadrupled, right? So like the simple version of profitability is maximizing profits right now in the short term. The more sophisticated one is I'm going to maximize my future profits by being able to predict them. And the book explains exactly how to do this step by step. It's not that hard. And again, very, very few companies do this. So if you do this and you do start thinking this way, you have a huge, huge, huge leg up.
I mean, I can't even underscore how powerful what you just said over the last few minutes are, but before the example and during the example, because most small businesses don't really do much market research. And as a result, they don't know who the most profitable customers are. They usually don't even know who the right customers are that they should be targeting. But the amazing thing now is with AI, you can do the market research that bigger companies used to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars to do. And if you do it right, that'll set your business apart. And there's 2 ways to increase your profits. You can sell more, or you could reduce your expenses. But if you're doing the right thing, you should be doing both.
And if you acquire the most profitable customers, they'll just buy more on their own. Like it just like the Amazon story, right? Hey, Nick bought $5, great, and now next thing you know, Nick is buying everything on Amazon, which I do, by the way. Like I just it's pretty amazing.
Right.
But I started with just a few bucks in the first year.
And also you mentioned that most thinking is short term. I can understand somewhat for the big businesses because they're evaluated, significantly on a quarterly basis, probably overly. So, they do have a lot more focus on it. But, if you don't really work towards the long term, you're never going to achieve what's possible. So so definitely thanks for pointing that out as well. So you teased us about the 7 things, so I'm not going to let you leave without telling us what they are. So what are they?
Again, the book is Be a Sequoia, Not a Bonsai. The first thing is you should maximize profits, right? We talked a lot about that. The second one is you should maximize longer term profits. You just mentioned that. The third one is you should acquire the most profitable customers in your industry. Right? Have a dedicated strategy just for acquisition. The fourth one is you should work on improving the profitability or the customer lifetime value, like how much money you're going to make over time from each customer. You should improve that and focusing specifically on your second best tranche of customers, like not the top 15%. They're really hard to move up. Not the bottom 20%. They're really hard to move up. But the ones who are close to being your best customers, you can absolutely improve their profitability really quickly. And most companies don't look at the profit of each customer. They look at the profits, on their income statement, right? How much money we made today. But like, how's Andrew's profitability? How's Nick's profitability? That's really important. So that's number 4. Number 5, and one of my favorites, is improve your brand scientifically. Right? Historically, small companies and entrepreneurs, we couldn't build a brand. It used to cost, a huge amount of money of TV advertising. 88% of that investment typically failed. So, if you wanted to take a big risk and put a lot of money on TV advertising to build your brand, good luck. But now using digital tools like YouTube, and you can do extraordinary things very inexpensively, and you can take your brand to a whole new level, and that sets you up for massive growth in your company if your brand becomes known. And so we can talk more about that. That's really, really interesting to me. The 6th one is you should radically improve your customer experience for your top customers, right? And so looking at everything the customer touches, and the website, the customer service, the products, but not design it for the average, design it for the top 20% customer. And the last one, and the most important one, is look, there's 1,000 other ideas that are not in the book, and you should be open to new ideas, and you should have a system to test new ideas really, really quickly to be able to see what works and what doesn't work. So as opposed to like having a thought and say, hey, look, I'm going to spend 6 months trying to build this, you should look at a whole bunch of ideas in the book, Andrew's books, my book, and then you can highlight the ones you like, then find the minimum viable test that you can run to see if the idea makes any sense. I'll give you an example, Andrew, on that last idea. Imagine that you're a car insurance company and you think that as opposed to filling out forms for 15 minutes, wouldn't it be great if a customer could just put their driver's license in front of their computer or their phone? You take a picture of that using AI, you extract all the data, and you're able to ping databases, all over the place and extract everything you need. And then you give a quote to that person in 5 seconds, right? 15 minutes versus 5 seconds. Now, assuming this can be done, right, technologically, and assuming it's legal to do all this, but it probably would be very expensive. So what would I do, right, if I was thinking about this idea? Well, I would basically, create a very simple, second web page. The first one is like, hey, enter all of your information here. The second one is like, hey, can you take a picture of your driver's license? I would have, it's really easy to design something that can take a picture. I would take the picture, and then I would say, okay, great, click here if you'd like a quote. And then the person clicks here, and then it would say, oh, I'm sorry, our quoting engine, doesn't work right now. Can you please go and fill out all the forms anyway? Like that, the picture of the driver's license thing doesn't work. Like there's no data behind it. There's no database. It just doesn't work. I just want to see if customers will take me up on this idea before I build it, right? So this is a very good Silicon Valley trick. What is the minimum viable test you can run before you invest any time and energy and money on building something new? Right. And so if you get really good at this, you can test a lot of ideas really quickly. Right. And so that 7th principle of improving the velocity at which you test ideas becomes a huge competitive advantage that nobody can copy if you get really good at this.
Excellent. So, definitely speed is important and cost is important. And if you're going to grow, you need new products and new services. And not all of them are going to work. But if you don't, continue to try stuff, you're not going to grow. And, markets evolve. And, if you stand still, you're falling behind. So definitely that's key. And love the 7 that you have there. Very powerful, and can help people focus. I mentioned that for many small business owners, the market research is lacking. So they may not have the right customers, or they may not know who their best customers are. What are some simple ways and simple things that business owners can do in terms of market research, so that they can have a more better understanding of their market and a better understanding of who they should focus on?
Yeah, that's a great question, Andrew. So the book actually has a whole bunch of ideas in there. Like the best way to find out who your best customers are is just looking at your historical data. So you look at customers you acquired, say 3 years ago, right? And say you had 1,000 customers you acquired, in February of 2023. And so you could follow them, right? If you have pretty good data, you can follow their revenue pattern. So, hey, I acquired 1,000 customers in February 2023, and of these 1,000 customers, the top 100 generated over 75% of my revenue. So looking at your CRM, looking at your database is the easiest way to see your revenue concentration. And then once you have that list of customers who are the most valuable, you can look at some data, right? Where do they live? What do they have in common? What do they order? What do they do? There's a whole bunch of data that you can track. The book explains exactly how to figure this out. And you can also look at external sources, right? If you don't have good data, if you go to a tool called Consensus, which is an AI research tool, which is mostly free. It has 20 million scientific papers inside of it, and you can type in, who are the most valuable customers in the restaurant business, for example, or in the gym, business. And in the restaurant business, there's a whole bunch of stuff, right? People who use an app to order are more valuable. People who take takeout are more valuable. So you can actually find like 6 or 7 criteria that can help you get some insights about the most valuable customers and what you want to find. And once you've done this, once you have a good sense for who your most valuable customers are, then when a brand new customer comes in you've never seen before, right? And Nick is coming into your website for the first time. I buy something, and then you're like, okay, Nick, lives, in this part of California. He used this type of credit card. He bought this. He did that. He spent this much time on my website. Dot 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 dot. Based on what I know historically, right, I can actually predict that Nick will be, a 7 out of 10 in terms of his value to me in the next 5 years. And then if you send that 7 out of 10 back to Facebook and Google, they're going to understand that Nick is a pretty good customer, not an amazing customer, but pretty good. And then if you do this enough times, next thing you know, you're going to get a lot more 7s, 8s, 9s, and 10s. And so the book explains how to find how to create these algorithms, how to do the research. It's actually not that hard. The hard part actually of running a business based on longer term profitability is cultural. It's all kind of how we've been brought up to run a business. Like, hey, I'm predicting the future profit of Nick, over the next 5 years, but my prediction model isn't perfect. So I know it's only going to be 70% accurate. So I could be wrong, right? And so I'm making a bunch of decisions on wrong information, right? And so are we comfortable as humans, looking at a crystal ball that's only 70% accurate, as opposed to looking at today's data, which is 100% accurate? Well, I mean, look, if you were playing the lotto and you had a crystal ball that could tell you what the lotto numbers are going to be at 70% accuracy, you'd be all over it all the time, right? But for some reason, because we're worried about being wrong at work, right, our careers get impacted and so on, we're much more risk averse. So the reason why people don't do what seems obvious, which is focusing on the quality of the customers that are acquired, is because we don't know yet the quality of each customer. We're just predicting it, and we're nervous about it, and so we just don't do it. So the book talks about that. Talks about how to get over that and build these crystal balls. And then when you have a crystal ball and your competitors don't, and even if your crystal ball is 70% accurate, you're going to win.
That's a great point that you made, especially on the conservatism, and sometimes analysis paralysis. I find I help people write business plans for financing, and even if in semi rare cases where they have a business plan, even though they know they should have one, it's amazing how many businesses don't have one, but it's very rare to see one with financials in them. And if you don't have financials in them, then you don't have facts to work from. So so definitely, it's key for that. I work with a client who sold, stuff for women and was marketing to women. But when I had her do some research, she found out to her research on Google that it was actually men buying her products for women. So she totally missed her market, and was just making sales, but the efforts she was doing on marketing, weren't effective. So once she understood that, she was able to pivot her marketing strategy and increase. So, but you talked about some of the ways you can use data, but many small businesses don't have data. So, what should we do if we don't have any of our data, or we're too early to have data?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. We'll first start capturing it now, right? It may take you a while to get enough of it, but start capturing as much of it as possible, right? And so, what pages people go on my website, how much time they spend per page, like all the stuff that you would want to capture is really critical, especially the behavior that customers do, in the first few days when they come to see you as they become new customers. So that's one way to do it. The other one is just to have hypotheses, right, and test them and then disprove them over time, right? So I'll share an example. I was working with a fashion retailer, and they had a good website. People, could buy, nice fashion items, and then they had, built a recommendation engine using AI that was recommending similar items to what their customers had already bought. Right. And so if you're a woman, for example, and you buy a lot of skirts, they're going to show you a whole bunch more skirts. And so that was a hypothesis, right? And there's not a lot of data. It was just intuition, right? And they started seeing that, yes, this makes sense. Yes, this converts really well. So if I'm showing more skirts to women who've bought skirts, they're more likely to buy those skirts than if I show them something else. Okay, but then there was a merchant who had a a very different idea, and she had a huge amount of experience in fashion. She said, "Look, if a woman has only bought skirts, it's going to be harder to sell her a blouse because she hasn't bought blouses yet. But if we do, she's going to buy a lot more in the future." Well, that's interesting, right? So it's harder, so maybe the profits will be a little bit smaller in the short run, but in the long run, this customer is going to be worth a lot more money. Their customer lifetime value is going to go up a lot. Okay, so how would you run this test, right? You take a bunch of customers who've only bought, some skirts. They've never bought blouses. You split them into two groups. One group just gets, the normal treatment. They get more skirts. I recommend it to them. And then the other group, you change that and you send them emails to buy not skirts, but blouses. And then you can actually figure out over time if these customers were worth more. And it turns out that the customers who were buying blouses as opposed to more skirts became twice as valuable as the others. And so, data is one way to look at things, right? But eventually, you run out of data and you have to use your intuition. But you have to challenge your intuition with tests. And you just don't fall in love with your ideas, right? 90% of my ideas have been bad in my career as an entrepreneur. So be humble enough to say, hey, look, I've got this idea. I think it's great. What is the easiest way to test this idea? And then when the data comes back and it's like, this doesn't work so well, be willing to kill it, right? And then move on to the next idea. So that loop of hypothesis testing, killing ideas or scaling ideas when they work really well is actually the most important thing, I think, as an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, I did that fairly poorly, actually, many times. I just fell in love with my ideas. I invested too much time and energy in one idea before it was proven. And then 6 months later, and a huge amount of work from a lot of people, hey, that didn't work at all. We didn't really test it before we did it. So I actually think that testing ideas is more important in the end than actual data. So just test, learn. and then scale what works and kill what doesn't work.
Okay. No, great point. Definitely, you can theoretically come up with ideas, but at the end of the day, everything has to be market driven, and testing them and getting the data, talking to your customer, getting feedback from your customer is key. So excellent. So the one thing I don't like about the show is an hour is just not long enough to talk to the great people that we have on the show. So, we're bumping up on the hour pretty soon. So, so I definitely wanted to make sure that we don't let you get away without sharing 3 key things that people should take away from the show. Definitely that helps make it manageable. There was so much that we covered that, it could be hard for people to really narrow down, what should I do tomorrow? What can I do tomorrow? So, those 3 things, if you can, think of them in terms of what can they do tomorrow? Should they start thinking about or doing? And also, a lot of people can't really remember more than 3 things anyways. So so I really like that number. So I'm gonna play a short video, and then we'll come back and we'll have Nicolas share his 3 things that he wants you to take away from our discussion this evening. So excellent. So I'm going to play a video about our recent book that we did for the 5th anniversary. Hi, Andrew here, and I'm excited to announce the launch of our new book, 99 Proven Tips to Accelerate Your Masterpreneur Journey. 5 years, 33 incredible guests, hundreds of powerful business lessons, and now it's all in one place. Introducing 99 Proven Tips to Accelerate Your Masterpreneur Journey, a brand new book built from the insights, wisdom, and strategies shared by the guest experts of our podcast, Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. Inside, you'll discover actionable tips on how to launch smarter.
So if you have an idea that you have researched and you know who your customer is and you think that you've got the experience you need, now is a perfect time to start a business. But remember, start as a side hustle first.
Grow faster.
So sales is about problem solving, not about manipulating. You have to understand the math of your business, the sales math.
Lead more effectively.
You shouldn't expect someone to be you. You have to understand and create processes to basically train people on how to handle certain situations and basically set people on the right path, right? So they can become successful within your organization.
And scale your business with confidence.
Bet on yourself and not be afraid to take risks and to know that you have within you the ability to accomplish your dreams and accomplish your goals.
Think like an entrepreneur. Now, I know there may be many entrepreneurs listening, but there may be some who aren't entrepreneurs. That's all well and good. I'm here to say entrepreneurship is not just something you do, it's a way that you think. And the characteristics of an entrepreneur's thinking are creativity, resourcefulness, courage, resilience, and passion.
This isn't theory, it's practical advice straight from entrepreneurs and thought leaders who have done it. 5 years of conversations, 33 voices of experience, and now 99 tips to accelerate your masterpreneur journey. Get your copy today. Pre-order now to reserve your signed copy. Click the button below or scan the QR code to order from www.sbpro.com/99-tips. All right, welcome back to Leadership
I'm
Live.
going to order this book right now.
Okay, it's a great book. So we're here with Nicolas. We've been talking about small business and really how to focus on profit, because many businesses don't always focus on profit, but that's really why you're in business. And the way you do that, one of the key ways is focusing on your customers and having growth strategies. So Nicolas, what should people take away from what we discussed this evening?
Yeah, I think the first thing I would do tomorrow is go through, all the things you're trying to accomplish at a high level and see, how much of that actually improves profitability, right? Go through your marketing KPIs, your customer service, your product development. It is, really ask the question, is this, the right thing to do? Do we have the right metrics? That alone, it's easy to do, and that can drive massive improvements in your profitability. One. Two is pivot your entire strategy to delight your top 20% customers and find more of them, right? So see if you can figure out who they've been historically using your own data. If you can't, try and do some research, but do not build a business based on the average. Build a business based on the most profitable customers that you can really delight. So everything revolves around that, right? Every test that you do, every idea that you have is geared towards those 20% customers. And then lastly, try to find the easiest way to test new ideas when you have them, right? As opposed to, launching a new idea right away and putting a huge amount of effort. Find the minimum viable tests. What is the easiest way to actually prove the idea is bad? All right. So if you do those three things, right, maximize profit, focus on the top 20% customers, and test a lot faster. Those three things alone are super, super powerful, and your business will be at a much, much better place very soon.
Okay, excellent. So no, definitely those three things. A lot of times business owners focus on the wrong things, and as a result, their results aren't nearly as good as they could be. So focusing on profit, makes a lot of sense, and looking at it, but not just focusing on short-term, but long-term profit, like you talked about earlier. Focusing on the right customers. Definitely you want to sell to people who want to buy from you, but you also need to focus on the ones that are most profitable, and lessen your focus on people who aren't. So being able to do that. And then finally, you got to test new products. You got to develop them and see if they work quicker and less expensively. So no, this has been amazing, Nicolas. Definitely shared some valuable insights. I learned some things. I'm sure the audience is learning some things, whether they're live here or following up after the show. But thank you so much for joining us. Anything you want to share before we close out?
If you are involved with a nonprofit, I want to do consulting. I mean, I helped St. Jude's, raise 46% more funds in 1 year using the same tactics that are in the book. If you run a nonprofit and you do a lot of marketing to raise money, reach out to me on LinkedIn, because I can help you for free. That's part of I want to help 5 nonprofits every year, and I'm helping 3 right now. I'm looking for 2 more. So that's one thing. And then, buy the book, leave a nice review. It's called Be a Sequoia, not a Bonsai, and post something nice on LinkedIn. The book's done really, really well. The reviews are all 5 stars. So I'm sure it could be helpful to you.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining. If you can hang out for a few minutes after, and let me just close things out. So, once again, had a great guest, a lot of valuable knowledge. Definitely want to view this again and again, because, there's so much packed into what the discussion is about. So, hopefully this will help you focus on the right things and be able to, generate more revenue and make your business more successful. That's really what we're here for. So thanks again. As you know, every week we have a great guest. next week, we're going to focus on contacts plus opportunity equals success. Networking, relationship, development is critical, because relationships are everything in business. Whether it's person to person, in person, not in person, building that relationship with your customers and potential customers is critical. So we're going to be talking to Guy Dunn. He's written a book about networking, but he's actually about to launch a new book, an updated version, and has created a platform that can help you be able to strengthen your relationships, because the key to relationships is following up, and many people aren't good at that. So he's going to talk about how you can do that easier and better. Also his new book is going to be published by the Small Business Pro University Press. So I'm excited to be able to publish his book and add it to our collection, which is going to grow significantly this year. So hopefully you can join us, and just keep in mind, at the end of the day, the more that you know, the faster and more successfully your business is going to grow.
Thank you for listening to Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbpro.u.com.